Hi, in today's code experiment we're going to run a few experiments on the GUI. Currently we have this output. So now I'm going to change something here on the widgets line and see how that will reflect in the output. Now I do suggest that when you close the app, don't close it with that button, but stop it here. This is as long as we are developing the program. This is a better way to stop the program. Otherwise, you might have some errors. Later on, we're going to create an executable file of this program, which means that you will not need Python to execute this program. Anyone can get the program and they can use it on their computer. They don't need to have Python installed. They don't need to know Python. So it's going to be a distributable file. Then we're going to close the program using that button or another exit button, which we will add to the GUI. So now let's focus on the experiments. Look at this list of lists here. What happens if we remove all the inner brackets inside the list and we only leave one pair of brackets, so the opening square bracket here and the closing square bracket here? If I run the code now, we're going to get this error. And this particular line here is important to understand what's going on. It says that instead of a list, the type font was class PySimpleGUI. So what it's trying to say is that this list has to have other lists inside. So this is a flat list with other items, but you need to have another square of brackets, and then you can put the PySimpleGUI widgets inside those brackets. So in other words, each row in the GUI has to be a list. So basically you have the bigger list first, the outer list, and that list will contain a list of rows. So each row in the GUI has to be its own list. So now if I run the script, we're going to have one single row. You see now that label, input box and add button are in one single row. Label, input box and the add button. So having them in a list puts them in one single row in the GUI. That's something I wanted you to be clear about. Now let me stop the program, and if you place something like a string here, like hey or whatever, or here you put a number and you run the program, you're going to get an error. I think that's what you expected as well. So these things have to be PySimpleGUI widget types. So that is a specific type which creates these widgets. Otherwise things will not work. And the last experiment again is related to the widgets. If you place everything in a separate list, so every widget is inside a list like that. So now we have a list of 3 lists. That's the first list, that's the second list, that is the third list, and that is the entire list. Now you should be able to forecast, to predict the output. So try to think, what are we going to get if I run the script now? If you guessed it, you're doing well, very well. So we got a GUI with 3 rows. In each row we have one widget. So we have the label widget in the first row, we have the input box widget in the second row, and we have the button widget in the third row. So as I said before, each list inside the lists represents a row, and that proves it. So let me stop the program, and that was the code experiment for today. Thanks, see you later.